Good morning, dear students. Myself Babida Matthew. Today I am going to discuss about the topic high risk pregnancy. Pregnancy is a normal phenomenon, but because of some problems, sometimes pregnancy become complicated. So we can see what is high risk pregnancy and what all the care can be given if pregnancy is complicated. So high risk pregnancy is defined as one which is complicated by factor or factors that adversely affect the pregnancy outcome, maternal or perinatal or both maternal and paternal. So perinatal. So that is known as a high risk pregnancy. So because of some factors, if the pregnancy becomes complicated, it is known as the high risk pregnancy. So all pregnancies and deliveries are potentially at high risk. However, there are certain categories of pregnancies where the mother, the fetus or the neonate is in a state of increased jeopardy. The majority, that is 70 to 90% of fetal deaths occur before the onset of labor due to chronic asphyxia 30%, congenital malformation about 15%, and with some superimposed complication of pregnancy, that is 30%. So 20% of stillbirth have no obvious fetal, placental or maternal or obstetrical etiology. In the developed countries, the maternal deaths have been brought down to irreducible minimum, and such it may be prudent to consider only perinatal morbidity and mortality in identifying high-risk cases. But in the developing countries with a high maternal and perinatal mortality, the maternal factors should also be considered. The high risk factors may be pre-existing prior to or at the time of first antenatal visit, or may develop subsequently in the ongoing pregnancy, labor or prepaid. So the reasons which may cause the pregnancy as high risk, such as a high risk, that may be developed sometime before pregnancy, sometime during pregnancy, sometime during the labor or the prepucium. So that are the high risk factors. It may be remembered that over 50% of all maternal complications and 60% of all primary cesarean sections arise from the high-risk group of cases. So, how can we screen the high-risk cases? The cases are assessed at the initial antenatal examination. So, when the woman comes for the antenatal checkup, we have to assess the case as it is high risk or low risk, preferably in the first trimester of pregnancy itself. This examination may be performed in a big institution or in a peripheral health center. In rural areas, the initial screening may be done by properly trained paramedical personnel. From the peripheral areas, the high-risk cases are sent to the referral hospital and subdivisions or district or tertiary care centers for management of specialists. So, when the first woman came for the antenatal visit in rural area, when we screen and we find that it is a high risk, we have to send them to the referral hospitals. And some risk factors may later appear and are detected at subsequent visit. So, we before you said that when the first visit we have to identify the high risk, but sometimes these high risk factors appear and the subsequent visit. The cases are also reassessed near term, and again sometimes in labor also you can assess that is high risk for any new risk factors may arise during the time of labor. The neonates are also assessed very soon after delivery for any high risk factor. It is obvious that all the abnormalities does not carry the same risk. Somehow low risk are compared to others carry a very high risk for the mother and the fetus. So the high risk factors in pregnancy, we can see what are the high risk factors in the pregnancy. So we have to take the reproductive history so we can understand is it high risk factor is there or not. So in that, 2 or more previous miscarriage or previous induced abortion, These cases run as the risk of further abortion or preterm delivery. So, if the woman have the previous miscarriage or previous induction or induced abortion, these cases are carried as the high risk and we have to consider in the subsequent pregnancies. Next, previous stillbirth or neonatal death or birth of babies with a congenital abnormality. So, these cases also considered high risk. The other high risk is previous preterm labor or birth of an IUGR or microsomic baby, grand multiparity we already discussed in the previous class, previous cesarean section or hysterectomy, third stage anomalies like PPH. If the woman had PPH in the previous pregnancy, there is a chance of getting chance of having the postpartum hemorrhage in the subsequent pregnancies also. And previous infant with RH, ICU immunization or ABO incompatibility, there is a chance of subsequent pregnancy is a high risk. So these are the high risk factors in the pregnancy. Next, medical disorders in pregnancy also considered as high risk. So we can see what are the medical disorders in pregnancy as considered as high risk. First is pulmonary disease, tuberculosis, renal disease, pyelonephritis, thyroid disorders, psychiatric illnesses, cardiac diseases, epilepsy, viral hepatitis, preeclampsia, eclampsia, anemia, infections in pregnancy such as malaria and HIV. So all these medical disorders in pregnancy also considered as high risk. Next, high risk we will consider when the woman had previous surgery such as myomectomy, repair of complete perinatal tear, repair of vesicovaginal fistula. Vesicovaginal fistula which usually occur in the previous pregnancy if there is a tear occur. Okay, so if that is repaired, that is considered a high risk in the subsequent pregnancy. A repair of stress incontinence. Stress incontinence, if there was a problem of stress incontinence after the first pregnancy and if the repair done, it is also considered. In all these conditions, fetal and maternal outcome or both may be affected. So we have to consider it as high risk cases. Next, socioeconomic status. Patients belonging to low socioeconomic status have a higher incidence of anemia, preterm labor, growth retarded babies. So we have to consider the low socioeconomic status. Women coming from the low socioeconomic status are the high risk cases. Then family history of diabetic. There is a chance of getting a diabetic in their children. So hypertension and multiple pregnancy and congenital malformation. If the family history of all these conditions, there is a chance of getting this to the woman. Next, according to WHO, risk approaching MMCH care are during pregnancy. If the woman is elderly primate, we already studied in the previous class, that is after the 30 years of age, the woman become pregnant, that is known as elderly primate. Next, short structured primate. That means the woman's height is less than 140 centimeters. That is considered short structured primate. Then threatened abortion and antepartum hemorrhage. Malpresentation. Malpresentation you will study it in the later class. Malpresentation is other than the cephalic presentation. Preeclampsia and eclampsia. Anemia. Elderly grand multiparous. Twins and hydramnios. Hydramnios also we studied where we just said in previous class and previous stillbirth, intrauterine death, manual removal of placenta, prolonged pregnancy, history of previous cesarean section and instrumental delivery, that is the vacuum or forceps delivery, and pregnancy associated with medical diseases. So according to WHO, all these conditions during pregnancy is considered as risk. Then during labor, that is premature rupture of membrane. Premature rupture of membrane means before the time of labor or the proper dilatation, if the rupture of membrane occurs, that is known as premature or preterm rupture of membrane. And prolonged labor. Prolonged labor means labor is extended more than 18 hours. And a hand, feet or cord prolapse. If the after the rupture of the membrane, the hand or feet or cord is prolapsed, that is also considered high risk during the time of labor. The placenta retain more than half an hour. So after the delivery of the baby, usually within 10 minutes or 15 minutes, the placenta should be delivered. Then the subsequent or second pregnancy, if within 5 to 10 minutes also placenta should deliver, but it should not deliver and it is retained in the placenta and the uterus more than half an hour. It is considered as high risk during the time of labor. Then postpartum hemorrhage. Prepucial fever, that is also the complication in the prepucial postnatal time, that is a prepucial fever or the sepsis. Next, how can we screen? Initial screening should be how it should be done. So we have to take the history. So if the mother's age, that is pregnancy is safest between the 20 to 29 years of age. So if the age is less than 16 years, so in the Maharashtra, Rajasthan, or in some states, they still also have the marriage occur before 16 years. So when they become pregnant, it will be high risk for the or the complication for the mother and also for the babies. And nowadays it is a trend is going on that after the studies the woman become pregnant, so their age become more than 30s, that is also high risk. So less than 16 and 13 years are considered as high risk. So pregnancy following long period of infertility. So after nowadays this is also one of the main problem, that is infertility. So after the marriage they are not getting fertile, and for the long time period they are, if they become fertile, that is also should be asked. And after induction of ovulation, so if the ovulation was not there, and after the induction of ovulation when they become pregnant, so all these considered as high risk, and you have to take the history of all these things. And reproductive history, second and third pregnancies after a normal first delivery carries the low risk. And what all the examination should be done. So we already told about the history collection. Next is the examination. So general physical examination should be done, that is a height. So we already told less than 140 is considered a high risk. So we have to check, that is below 150 centimeter, and particularly below the 145 centimeter in our country. Then weight, overweight or underweight, body mass index should be checked, and that is BMI should be calculated, and BMI 20 to 24 is accepted as normal. And high blood pressure, anemia, cardiac or pulmonary disease, and orthopedic problems. So these are the general physical examination should be carried out to find out any of these problems. And pelvic examination. So we have to do the pelvic examination to find out the uterine size, that's disproportionately smaller or bigger size of the uterus, and genital problems, prolapse, lacerations or dilatation of the cervix, associated tumors, pelvic inadequacy. So we have to do the pelvic exam to find out any of these problems. Next, course of the present pregnancy, what all things we have to be done. So after the initial visit, the cases should be reassessed at each annual visit. So after the initial visit, if you consider as it is high risk, then each visit you have to be detected for any abnormality that will have to be erased sometime in the later time also. So that's why we have to assess the in later time also. Because in one of my cousin had the postpartum hemorrhage after the first delivery. In the first pregnancy, after the first delivery, she had postpartum hemorrhage. So in the second pregnancy, she already informed the doctor about her first pregnancy problem. So they take precautions and take necessary steps to prevent the postpartum hemorrhage in the second pregnancy. So that is a high risk. They consider as it high risk, and after her second delivery also, because so they all planned, she had the postpartum hemorrhage in the second delivery, after delivery, but they managed properly. So that's why we have to find out take the proper history, then only we can understand any abnormality, and we can check for we can be prepared to prevent the any problems arise in the during the labor or the later time. Then, like example, if we say like preeclampsia, anemia, RH isoimmunization, high fever, pyelonephritis, hemorrhage, diabetic mellitus, large uterus, lack of uterine growth, post-maturity, abnormal presentation, twin, and history of exposure to drugs or radiation, acute surgical problem. So, present pregnancy, we have to take the proper assessment, and the later weeks also we have to do the proper checkup. Next, complication of labor. So in the labor complication usually occur, that is intrapartum fetal distress and delivery under general anesthesia. So if the patient is a high risk, the problems arises are intrapartum fetal distress, delivery under the general anesthesia needed, and difficult forceps or the breech delivery, failed forceps. So failed forceps means forceps inserted but cannot be locked or take out the baby with a forceps. Postpartum hemorrhage or retained placenta, and prolonged interval from the diagnosis of fetal distress to delivery. So if that means if the fetal distress occurred, we could if not find out proper within time, there is a more chance of fetal distress and fetal loss. So if more than 30 minutes elapse from the recognition of fetal, if the fetal distress occurred but more than 30 minutes is taken to find out, or we didn't find out the fetal distress the time of delivery, the mortality increases threefold. That's why if the woman is considered as a high risk and we do the proper labor management, we can prevent it, and otherwise it will last long and the fetus mortality will be occur. Then postpartum complication. Now we told about the labor complication. Then what postpartum, what are the complication may occur? That is postpartum hemorrhage, retained placenta, shock, inversion. Uterus is inward out. Uterus is usually like this. It is inward out. That is inversion of uterus. And sepsis may develop later also. These are the postpartum complication. Next, categories of neonate that are high risk. Which type of neonates are at high risk? That is, APGAR score is less than 7. Normal APGAR score is 7 to 10. So less than 7 is known as high risk babies. Next step, hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia of the woman is having hyperglycemia. The babies are considered, baby may have the hypoglycemia. Next, anemia. Birth weight is less than 2500 gram. That is 2.5 weight or more than 4 kg are considered as high risk. Then major congenital abnormalities, convulsions, fetal infection, jaundice, respiratory distress syndrome, persistent cyanosis, hemorrhagic diathesis. So, if these conditions occur, these are considered as high risk cases. Next, what are the management of high risk cases should be done? The high risk cases should be identified and given proper antenatal, intranatal and neonatal care. Second point, strengthen midwifery skills, because then only we can find out the early find the complication early and can do the proper management. That's why strengthen the midwifery skills, community participation and referral system. If they find out the risk factors early, then only they can refer to the high hospitals, high system hospital, and proper training of the resident, nursing personnel and community health workers should be given. And fourth point, arranging periodic seminars, refresher courses with the participation of workers involved in the care of these cases. Then concentration of cases in specialized centers for the management. Then community participation also improve, and proper utilization of healthcare manpower and financial resources where it is mostly needed. Then availability of perinatal laboratory for necessary investigation, availability of a good pediatric service for the neonates. So there should be proper management for the neonate. There should be availability of the proper neonatal management. Then lastly, improvement of the economic status, literacy and health awareness to the community. So we already told that the low socio-economic status is one of the reason for the high risk cases. So we have to improve the economic status, and now government is providing proper nutritious food and assessment of the antenatal mothers from the Anganwadi itself. Next, cases having a previous unsuccessful pregnancy should be seen and investigated before another conception occurs. So, if the woman have the previous any problem in the pregnancy, then she should be properly investigation should be done, because there is a chance of occurring in the subsequent pregnancy. So, before the conception of second pregnancy, we have to be properly investigated. The investigation like histography, histoscopy, laparoscopy or transvaginal ultrasonography should be performed to rule out any Mullerian abnormality. We already studied about the abnormality of uterus. So, before pregnancy, they have to be done the proper investigation to find out any abnormalities there. Then complete investigation for hypertension, diabetic, kidney disease or thyroid disorder should be undertaken and proper treatment instituted in the non-pregnant state. So if she's had the thyroid problem, hypertension or diabetic, it should be checked and it should be corrected before the pregnancy occurs. So in the non-pregnant stage itself, they have to manage all this problem and become in the control. Then only they could pregnant. Okay. Then sexually transmitted disease should be treated before embarking on another pregnancy. If they have sexually transmitted problems, they have to take proper treatment before they become next pregnancy. And cervical tears should also be referred in the non-pregnant state itself. Then serology of for toxoplasma, IgG and IgM and antiphospholipid antibody should be done and corrected appropriately when found. If the serological test is found positive, they have to do the proper treatment and should be corrected before they become pregnant. Next, folic acid. We already told in previous classes. So folic acid, it is to prevent the neural tube defect. So folic acid 4 mg per day therapy should be started in pre-pregnant state and is continued throughout the pregnancy. So usually when the woman becomes pregnant and after her missed period only they come to the clinicals. So that time already the fertilization and implantation is occurred. So to prevent the condition before the this fusion itself, they have to take the folic acid. So that's why if the woman is planning for pregnancy, they have to take the folic acid 4 mg daily. Then early in pregnancy, after the initial clinical examination, pregnancy after the initial clinical examination, routine special laboratory investigation should be undertaken. So pregnancy before they are planning, if they are planning for pregnancy, they have to take the clinical examination for the to maintain. If the sometime their HB will be not be normal, sometimes they may be having the diabetes, so they have to do the proper clinical examination to rule out any problem. Is there any undertaken causes are there? So we have to do the initial investigation. Laboratory investigation should be carried out before the pregnancy. Then necessary advice should be given regarding the diet, activities, rest and medication to the women who are at high risk. Then minimum medicines should be taken during pregnancy. They should not take the unnecessary medication during pregnancy, because sometimes it may cross some medications may cross the placenta and that will adversely affect the fetus. So minimum medication should be taken during the pregnancy, particularly in the early months. Then assessment of maternal fetal well-being should be done. This should be done at each antenatal visit. We have to check the maternal blood investigation and the FHs and baby size, presentation, everything should be checked in each antenatal visit. And according to the guidelines given, maternal complications should be looked for and treated if necessary. So in previous class, you are studying about the each condition and what are the management should be taken. So according to that guidelines, we have to manage. Then cases for the antepartum fetal monitoring. So antepartum fetal monitoring or biophysical or electronic assessment. We already studied about the biophysical assessment and biochemical assessment. So what all the cases are needed for the antepartum assessment? That is cases with a uteroplacental insufficiency and prolonged pregnancy, diabetic mellitus, IUGR, maternal age is less than 50 or more than 30 years, ICU immunization in pregnancy, hypertension, previous stillbirth, polyhydramnios or oligohydramnios, antepartum hemorrhage, multiple pregnancy, hematological disorders in pregnancy. So all these cases in the antenatal period, they have to do the antepartum fetal monitoring or the biophysical or the biochemical assessment. Then, what all the management can be done during the labor? Elective cesarean section is necessary in a high risk case. If the patient is at a high risk, we have to go for the cesarean section. It is considered as elective cesarean section. They would be elected and be pre-planned cesarean section. And some cases may need induction of labor after 37 to 38 complete weeks of gestation, such as like if the woman is diabetic, so it should not be go more than 38 weeks of gestation because baby will become more in size. That's why it will be increase in size because of diabetic. So that's why like that cases, if the cases are should not go more than 38 weeks of gestation, should be done the induction of labor between 37 to 38 completed weeks of gestation. And those cases who go into labor spontaneously or after the induction need close monitoring during the labor for the assessment of progress of labor or for any evidence of fetal hypoxia. So if the patient is a high risk but she gone for the spontaneous normal induction, so spontaneous labor or the induction of labor, so in that such cases we should do the monitoring, close monitoring during the intranatal period should be done to prevent the hypoxia. We already studied which are the cases and what are the care should be given during the intranatal period, such as if the woman is diabetic, there is chance of cord prolapse, such condition. If the malpresentation, there is a chance of cord prolapse and short cord. So in such conditions, we should be closely monitored for the any fetal hypoxia. Then the condition of the fetus can be assessed. How can we assess? That is a fetal heart monitoring should be done by stethoscope, fetoscope, Doppler or continuous electronic monitoring should be done and through this method continuous fetal monitoring should be done. And passage of meconium in the liquor. If the baby passed in the meconium in the liquor after the ARM, if we find that the meconium is passed, then we have to assess the FHS continuously. An examination of fetal scar blood for the pH value to assess. Then, if there is any evidence of fetal anoxia in the first stage or there is failure to progress, that is, if the after long time it is the progress is not occurring properly, then cesarean should be done to save the life of the mother and the baby. Then the condition of neonate is assessed immediately after the delivery because we already studied in the previous class, like if the woman is having diabetes, there is chance of hypoglycemia. So these are in mind and we have to take the immediate assessment or immediately a neonate should be assessed for any complication. And many of these babies need expert neonatal care. So the neonatologist should be present during the time of labor. The delivery is conducted in an institute which equipped neonatal care, because sometimes immediately after delivery there may be some complication arise to the baby. So we have to immediately shift the baby to the NICU. So that's why if we consider it as high risk, they should be referred to such a hospital where the neonatal ICU must be there. That's all about the high risk pregnancy and the management. So till now we discussed about the high risk pregnancy, what all the conditions we considered as high risk, and what all the screening should be done, and how it can be done care during the antenatal, intranatal during labor, and the postnatal period, and what all the care should be given to prevent the complication of high risk mothers. I think all of you are clearly understood. Thank you.